Chosen one, you are here because God did not allow the silence of your enemies to bury your voice, nor did he permit the weight of their jealousy to crush your light. You stand now on sacred ground, not merely because you survived opposition, but because the opposition was never strong enough to contend with the divine favor stitched into your existence. What your enemies tried to suppress was never simply your strength. It was your radiance, your essence, that unmistakable flame within you that speaks even when you say nothing. That magnetism, that force, that high sexual energy which confuses the small-hearted and intimidates the insecure, it is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is holy, and it is untouchable. They tried to silence what they could not understand. They tried to shame what they could not match. Some saw your presence and mistook it for arrogance. Others saw your power and called it threat. You never had to flaunt anything. You simply walked into rooms and their insecurities exposed themselves. You smiled and they felt diminished. You spoke and their masks fell off. You radiated and they panicked. But chosen one, it was never about you in their eyes. It was about the fear that your existence would reveal how deeply they lacked authenticity. You carried the kind of light that could only come from within, and so they conspired in silence, speaking half-truths and planting doubt in those too weak to resist gossip. But God saw it all. He saw the meetings in private, the smirks behind your back, the subtle dismissals and the cold indifference masquerading as politeness. And still, he preserved you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were his. And what belongs to him cannot be canceled by critics, nor erased by envy. Every time they plotted, he intervened. Every time they whispered, he thundered. And when they tried to box you in, to shame your magnetism, to silence your presence, God made your light shine louder. You need to understand this. They weren't just trying to suppress your presence. They were trying to cage your essence. That rich, sovereign frequency you carry that awakens curiosity, stirs admiration, and yes, sometimes triggers fear. Your high sexual energy is not lustful nor perverse. It is sacred. It is life-generating. It is that divine echo within you that speaks of creation, intimacy, and strength. It moves people, not because it is aggressive, but because it is pure. Your haters mistook your purity for manipulation. But God knew better. He gave it to you after all. That is why he stopped them. That is why you're still here. Not diminished, not dismantled, but magnified. Stronger, sharper, clearer, and more aware than ever of who you are and why you're still standing. Now is the time to recognize the divine hand that covered you when you didn't even know how close the knives were. This chapter is not just about their failure to destroy you. It's about the certainty that no one ever had the power to do so. Because what they tried to suppress, God preserved. And what he preserved, he is now about to unleash. You were not protected for comfort. You were protected for purpose. So don't just thank God for the silence of your enemies. Thank him for the roar that is now awakening within you. You are not the same person who first endured their ridicule. You have been refined by fire and baptized in silence. Now your very existence is a testimony. What God ordains, no human opinion can contain. Chosen one, now that you've witnessed the divine preservation of your essence, you must come into full understanding of what exactly was being protected. The enemy does not target what is ordinary. Your haters did not rise up because of superficial reasons. They rose up because they sensed something in you that you yourself had only just begun to grasp. Your power, the depth of it, the impact of it. That high sexual energy they feared wasn't about seduction or vanity. It was the pulse of creative life force flowing through you, manifesting as charisma, confidence, and presence. It is a force deeply misunderstood by those who haven't cultivated their own inner light. This energy is not flesh-driven. It is spirit-birthed. It's what makes you impossible to ignore in silence and unforgettable in speech. It's why people feel moved by your presence but struggle to explain it. It's why rooms bend toward you, why conversations gravitate around you, and why certain individuals either draw near with deep respect or recoil in quiet contempt. Your energy speaks to the truth in people, and truth always makes the false nervous. You must understand, this power is not simply to be admired. It must be understood, channeled, and honored. Your high sexual energy is rooted in creation. It carries the echo of divine spark, the ability to build, to shape, to call forth life where there was once silence. It's not just about attraction. It's about activation. You activate feelings, thoughts, curiosity, and even healing in others simply by existing as you were designed to be. But to carry that kind of energy and not understand it is to carry lightning without a conduit. If you're not aware of what's flowing through you, you may misuse it, or worse, deny it. And every time you deny it, you deny a part of the divine signature placed on your life. That's what your enemies hoped you would do. They wanted you to suppress your essence so they could feel comfortable around your silence. They wanted you to shrink so their mediocrity would seem noble. They wanted you to turn your power inward, to question it, to bury it beneath shame and fear, but they failed. And now you must not only reclaim that power, you must master it. This is not the time to let others define what your energy means. This is the time to ask God how to use it. What conversations is your presence meant to shift? What spaces are your words meant to ignite? What eyes are meant to be opened by your gaze? And what spirits are meant to be softened by your stillness? This is not about performance. This is about alignment. When your energy is aligned with heaven, you become a living portal of divine purpose. There are people who will experience healing just by being near you. Not because you try to fix them, but because your energy reminds them of something they forgot about themselves. That's why you've been fought so hard. Because you don't just inspire change, you provoke it. Your energy challenges the stagnant, it confronts the shallow, and it awakens hunger in those who've been numb for too long. Understand this power. It is not random. It is not cosmetic. It is spiritual. And now that the attempts to suppress it have failed, you are stepping into a chapter where its impact will no longer be whispered about in small corners. It will be seen, it will be felt, it will be known, but it must first be respected by you. Chosen one, you are not just a carrier of energy, you are a conductor of divine force. Treat yourself accordingly, move accordingly, live accordingly. Because what once threatened others now distinguishes you, and the time has come to use it not for validation, but for victory. Chosen one, now that you have opened your eyes to what God preserved in you, and now that you have begun to grasp the true magnitude of your divine energy, you must remember, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, the very real attempts made to suppress it. They came in subtle words and disguised tones. They came through judgment that wore the mask of advice. They came through half-hearted friendships, through mentors who feared your light, and lovers who were enamored by your aura until they realized they could not control it. What you carry has always provoked a response. It's never been neutral. And so those whose identity depended on being the brightest in the room felt threatened by your mere existence. You were never loud, but your energy spoke. You didn't have to chase validation. It followed you quietly, irritating those who spent their whole lives demanding attention. And so they tried to shrink you. They couldn't dim the actual flame, but they could try to make you question it. That was always the goal. Not to kill your energy, but to make you suppress it with your own hand. They wanted you to second-guess your confidence, label your magnetism as arrogance, and believe your radiance was inappropriate. Some called it too much, some called it dangerous, others called it selfish, seductive, or unspiritual. But none of it was true. You were simply misunderstood by those who had never encountered someone fully aligned with their design. It began in moments that felt small. A comment here, a dismissive laugh there, a relationship where your power was welcomed until it couldn't be controlled. You adjusted. You watered yourself down. You made yourself quieter in spaces where your full voice could have shifted the atmosphere. You looked around and realized that the more you stepped into your fullness, the more it seemed to make others uncomfortable. So you made the fatal decision so many great souls make. You shrank in order to be kept. But heaven never asked you to be small. And so, though you tried to stay hidden, the pressure within you kept rising. The fire in you could not be ignored. Even in suppression, you glowed. Even when you withheld your full presence, people still leaned in. You thought you were dimmed, but even in your lowest state, you were still a sunrise to someone living in the dark. But let it be known, chosen one, the enemy never wanted your destruction. He wanted your compliance. Destruction is visible and obvious, but compliance, That's a slow kill. The kind where you continue to exist but not truly live. Where you breathe but don't radiate. Where you walk with legs but without fire. That's what they wanted. They didn't need you gone. They just needed you quiet. And so they fed you the language of guilt, of false humility, of counterfeit submission. They called it wisdom, but it was spiritual manipulation designed to keep your energy locked behind self-doubt. And yet, in the midst of all this, God watched. Patiently, deliberately. Not because he was absent, but because he was setting the trap. He allowed them to dig the pit, knowing they'd fall into it themselves. He allowed the betrayal so he could reveal who never deserved access to your presence. He allowed the silence so that when your voice returned, it would roar. And when they reached the climax of their schemes, when they believed they had successfully boxed you in, he stopped them. Instantly, without negotiation, without apology. And now their control is broken. The permission they thought they had has been revoked. Heaven has cleared the air around you. Their access is denied. Their whispers carry no weight. Their opinions hold no authority. You are no longer who you were when they tried to tame you. You are no longer the version of yourself they were comfortable with. You are restored, refined, reignited, and most of all, released. Let their suppression attempts be a memorial, not a prison. Look at those moments not with shame, but with reverence, because you survived what was designed to slowly erase you. You endured the quiet warfare, and now you emerge not just alive, but alive with fire in your veins and thunder in your name. Chosen one, take a breath now, not in survival, but in victory. The time has come to celebrate your resilience, not as a cliché, but as a sacred truth. You didn't just make it through something. You overcame what was built to kill your glow. You didn't collapse. You didn't convert your brilliance into bitterness. You didn't numb yourself with distractions, even though that would have been easier. You didn't deny your divine essence, even when the world gave you every reason to question it. That is strength. That is spiritual resilience. And it must be honored. There were nights your soul felt heavy. Days where your silence was mistaken for agreement. Moments where you wanted to scream, but instead you stood still, not in weakness, but in trust. Because something inside you, something deeper than language, kept whispering, "Hold on, don't break. God sees this." And he did. There were times when the pressure of being misunderstood almost made you accept a smaller version of yourself. There were rooms you dimmed your flame just to be accepted. And yet, despite the shrinking, despite the restraint, despite the silence you wrapped around your soul to avoid conflict, your spirit refused to give up. That is what must be celebrated, not just the fact that you endured, but that you endured without losing yourself. And now you know what it means to be forged by resistance. Your glow is not aesthetic, it is earned. You didn't buy this confidence, you bled for it. You weren't handed this energy, you built it with broken pieces and unspoken prayers. You are not radiant because you were lucky. You are radiant because you refused to let darkness write your ending. God delights in this kind of resilience, not the loud, performative kind, but the sacred resilience that develops in silence. The kind that grows beneath layers of rejection, confusion, and spiritual warfare. The kind that makes no announcements but shows up like fire when the moment is right. And that moment, chosen one, is now. You are allowed to celebrate. You are allowed to honor your own becoming. You are allowed to stand tall without apology. You are allowed to embrace your beauty, your magnetism, your rare essence without shrinking. You are allowed to look in the mirror and say, "I made it through what should have undone me." Your resilience was not in your ability to fight every critic. It was in your refusal to betray your essence just to be liked. It was in your ability to stay soft in a world that wanted to harden you. It was in the gentle but firm decision to remain aligned with who God said you were, even when others wanted to rename you. You are not just resilient, you are chosen to thrive, not in defiance, but in clarity. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove God right. Every tear that dried silently in private now waters the garden you are about to bloom in. Every betrayal carved out space in your heart for deeper joy. Every rejection pushed you back toward your origin, God. So rise, chosen one, not in ego, but in essence. Not with vengeance, but with vision. Let your resilience be your crown. Let your story speak. Let your very presence say what words never could. God stopped them, and now I shine. Chosen one, by now you've come to understand that what they tried to suppress was not just your image, your confidence, or your outward strength. It was your light. But more than that, it was your divinely infused frequency that they feared. They sensed your presence was a problem, not because it was loud, but because it was aligned. And here's what must now be etched deep into your heart. No matter how intense the pressure, no matter how precise the lies, no matter how close the attacks came to piercing your inner world, the reason you endured it all was faith. Not blind belief, not wishful thinking, but the kind of faith that burns beneath the silence. The kind of faith that whispers truth when everything around you screams otherwise. That unshakable knowing that, even when you didn't have answers, God was still writing your story in ink they couldn't smudge. You had no proof, no applause, no assurances, but you had faith. And that faith kept your flame from going out. There were days when your strength felt like a liability. When the energy you carried seemed to invite discomfort. You began to wonder if the gift was actually a curse. You started to question whether your fire was too much, whether your vibration was too high, whether your very essence was a disruption. But in those moments, dark and disorienting as they were, it was faith that held you steady. It was the unseen hand of the divine that refused to let you forget who you were beneath the pressure. When your haters tried to distort the narrative, faith reminded you that the author had not changed his plot. This faith wasn't performative. It didn't always feel like light. Sometimes it was a trembling decision to rise when staying down would have been easier. Sometimes it was breathing through moments that felt suffocating. Sometimes it was staying kind when bitterness would have made more sense. But each of those silent choices, uncelebrated by the world, became the very bricks that built your resilience. Your faith didn't just carry you through. It rebuilt you in secret, and that is what your enemies could never see. They thought that by isolating you, they could destroy your voice. What they didn't realize was that in isolation, your spirit was being tuned, that in the silence, your frequency was being refined to a higher pitch, that in the dark, your root system was going deeper. They saw stillness and called it defeat, but God saw preparation. You were not being buried, you were being planted. Now your faith has reached maturity. It's no longer reactive, but proactive. It no longer waits for evidence, it creates evidence. You don't need the world to validate your essence because you've already been validated by the one who formed you. Your energy isn't loud because it's desperate, it's loud because it's full. And the fullness came from faith. Faith is what gave you access to a realm where others operate by manipulation. Faith is what built your discernment, your calm, your knowing. Faith is why your steps are now ordered with clarity. It is why you move with peace, even when storms try to circle around you. It is why people look at you and feel something unspoken, that you have been somewhere deeper and come back with wisdom that cannot be taught. Do not let go of this faith now that you're rising. If anything, hold it tighter. Because the higher you go, the more tempting it becomes to lean on your own strength, your own visibility, your own earned favor. But faith will keep you from becoming a monument to self. Faith will keep you grounded in source. Your energy may be felt by many, but it must remain submitted to the one who gave it to you. That's how you keep glowing without burning out. That's how you stay magnetic without becoming manipulative. That's how you remain divinely dangerous to darkness without ever needing to raise your voice. Chosen one, your faith has already stopped more enemies than you will ever know. Your faith has closed doors meant to trap you. Your faith has confused your haters, disarmed your critics, and made you a paradox in the spirit realm. You are not unshaken because life is easy. You are unshaken because your spirit is anchored. So walk in that faith now with your head high and your heart open. Let it continue to guide the flame that they tried to extinguish, but could never even touch. Chosen one, now that the dust of battle has settled and your heart has been secured in faith, you must turn your attention to what comes next. This is not the time to simply bask in the fact that God stopped your enemies. This is not the chapter where you gloat in secret victories or replay past betrayals. This is the moment where you prepare, not just for more attention, but for greater use. Because when God defends a vessel, It's not for decoration. It's because that vessel still has purpose, still has assignment, still has anointing that must be poured. Everything you've been through, the ridicule, the suppression, the slow, strategic pressure to silence your gift, was not a detour from destiny. It was training. It was to sharpen your awareness, deepen your compassion, and give you a level of internal discipline that cannot be shaken by praise or persecution. What you endured has made you trustworthy. And now that you are trustworthy, God is about to place weight in your hands. Not the weight of burdens, but the weight of influence. You must now rise with a different posture. Not to impress, but to serve. Not to announce yourself, but to answer a call. There are spaces opening to you, not because you're the most popular voice in the room, but because your frequency has become undeniable. There are people waiting to be healed by your presence, not because you've rehearsed wisdom, but because you've walked through fire and emerged holy. But to be used on this level, you must become intentional. That means every part of your life must now come into alignment with your mission. You cannot entertain distractions dressed as opportunity. You cannot share your energy with those who only want to drain it. You cannot speak casually what heaven has declared through you. You are no longer just a person. They will look to you as a standard. And while that may feel weighty, understand this. God does not call the perfect. He calls the prepared. This preparation is not about performance. It is about refinement. It is about asking daily, what is God doing in me that I may pour it into others? It is about protecting your mornings, your habits, your circle, your voice. You must guard your frequency with wisdom now, because it is not just sacred, it is strategic. Your energy will enter places your resume never could. Your presence will shift atmospheres that degrees and titles cannot touch. That is not an accident. That is divine design. And yes, your high sexual energy is still part of this. Do not be ashamed of it. Do not hide it under false humility. Do not let it be misunderstood by the small-minded. Instead, steward it. Use it to inspire confidence, not chaos. Let it be the river that waters hearts, not the flame that burns through trust. That energy is your gift, but it is also your responsibility. Let it move through your words, your work, your walk, not in seduction, but in sacred alignment. Preparing for greater use means preparing to be misunderstood again, but this time you will not flinch. This time you will not shrink. This time you will not waste time explaining your light to people committed to staying in the dark. You will simply do the work. You will walk into the places heaven assigns to you, carrying everything they tried to take and use it to build. So rise, chosen one. It is time. The suppression failed. The pruning is complete. The fire has not only been restored, it has been refined. And now God is ready to use you, not just as a reminder of His protection, but as a weapon of His glory. Prepare yourself, not to be seen, but to serve. Because what they tried to suppress has become the very thing that will save others. And that, only that, is why you were never allowed to be silenced. Chosen one, by now you've realized that your high sexual energy is not a random gift, nor is it simply for your enjoyment. It's not meant to be misunderstood as lustful or reduced to mere attraction. It is a living force inside you, fierce, sacred, and spiritual. It's what makes you magnetic. It's what makes people pause when you speak. It's what creates connection without words. But with such a powerful force burning in your soul, the question is no longer, why do I have this? The question now becomes, how will I channel it? Because raw energy is dangerous. Even divinely appointed energy, if left ungoverned, can wreak havoc. It's like a river that overflows its banks, not because it's evil, but because it was never given direction. And that's where many powerful souls fall, not because they weren't gifted, but because they never learned how to govern what God gave them. They let energy lead them instead of learning how to lead it. You must now take authority over your energy. Not to suppress it, but to shape it. This means walking through life with a level of awareness that separates you from the masses. You cannot afford to live on autopilot. Your tone, your eyes, your proximity, your touch, everything about you speaks. And when your energy is misaligned, it can confuse the very people you were sent to bless. That's why wisdom is no longer optional for you. It's your guardrail. It's your clarity in a world of confusion. Channeling your energy starts first in your thoughts. Your mental space is the throne from which your energy takes its orders. What you think about, fantasize about, fixate on, these are the blueprints your energy follows. If your thoughts are chaotic, your energy will leak in directions that serve no purpose. If your thoughts are pure, focused, rooted in truth, your energy becomes laser sharp. It will move mountains, shift hearts, and draw the right people into your atmosphere. Not because you tried to perform, but because your very being became intentional. You must learn how to guard your conversations. People will be drawn to your warmth, your calm, your confidence, but you cannot let every curious soul access your core. Many will come because your presence awakens something in them, but not all are meant to stay. Some will want to take from you. Some will want to replicate your light without cultivating their own. Some will pretend they love your spirit, when really, they just want to feed off your frequency. If you do not channel your energy with wisdom, you will find yourself constantly drained, trying to revive people who were never sent for you to fix. Wisdom means being selective, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. When you speak, speak with intention. When you walk into a room, walk with awareness. You are not a man blending in. You are a presence. You are a signal from heaven. And when you fully understand what you carry, you will stop trying to prove anything. You will stop over-explaining. You will stop justifying your shine. You will start governing. Your energy is not just for attraction, it's for building. It's for healing. It's for elevating conversations. It's for protecting spaces. It's for making others feel seen, not for making yourself feel validated. And when you channel it correctly, people will walk away from your presence and whisper to themselves, "There was something holy about that moment." You are not like others, chosen one. You were never meant to use your energy casually. The reason it was so fiercely attacked, so deeply misunderstood, and so persistently suppressed is because it was never meant to be wasted. You are a carrier of a rare frequency, and with it comes rare responsibility. So walk with wisdom now, not to appear perfect, but to move in purpose. Learn when to speak and when to be silent. Learn when to approach and when to remain still. Let your energy become the language of your integrity, your restraint, your discipline. Let it be felt not as recklessness, but as reverence. Because when you truly channel your energy with wisdom, your life stops being a stage and starts becoming a sanctuary. You stop performing and start impacting. And that, chosen one, is the mark of someone who has not only survived the fire, but who has learned to wield it. Chosen one, now that your energy is governed with wisdom and shaped by discernment, you must now step into one of the most essential purposes for which it was preserved: building authentic connections. This chapter is not about popularity. It's not about being wanted or desired. This is about spiritual relationships, divine alignments, sacred bonds that are birthed not in convenience, but in truth. Your energy, now refined and consecrated, creates a natural attraction. But attraction is not connection. One can be admired by many and still be unknown by all. One can light up a room and still be lonely inside. The world will offer you fleeting exchanges, people who are drawn to your flame but not committed to your soul. You must now be able to tell the difference between those who come for your energy and those who come for you. Authentic connection is not built in noise. It's built in quiet knowing. It's not fueled by performance, but by presence. When your energy is fully aligned with your essence, you no longer have to chase. You begin to attract people whose spirits are tuned to your frequency. They recognize your silence. They respond to your stillness. They don't just see your light. They respect the cost behind it. These are the ones you are now being prepared to meet and serve. But to build such connections, you must remain honest. Honest with yourself. Honest in your intentions. Honest in your words. This is not the season to impress. It is the season to reveal. You don't need to become anything you are not. You only need to remove what you never were. Authenticity does not mean sharing everything. It means being rooted in what is real. And what is real is this: you have been through fire and you have not been burned. You have been misunderstood and still you remained kind. You have been underestimated and still you remained focused. Let those truths shape how you relate. When you meet people, don't hide your wisdom to appear simple. Don't downplay your strength to avoid intimidation. Don't shrink your clarity to accommodate confusion. Speak in the voice your trials gave you. Stand in the posture your pain taught you. Let those who are meant to connect with you rise to meet you there. And know this, chosen one, your energy will draw many, but you only need the aligned. Don't be distracted by crowds. Don't be seduced by shallow admiration. Choose depth. Choose substance. Choose the relationships that challenge you to grow, that sharpen your insight, that speak truth when flattery would be easier. Let your circle be filled with those who carry the same reverence for purpose that you do. If your energy is a flame, then your connections must be kindling, not smoke. There will be people who try to attach to you for what you represent. They will mimic your language, adopt your mannerisms, pretend to reflect your light. But time reveals all. Energy cannot lie, and when you are grounded in truth,